Today we're going to ask my daughter, who is a junior in college, and my neighbor, who is a registered nurse, about the basic features and functions of the U.S. government.
So today is March the 7th. My name is Angelique Davis. I'm a student in the Bachelor of Arts program with the College of America at Southern New Hampshire University. I am conducting this interview as part of my academic work. With your consent, I will record this interview and use the information in Government and You I am working on for a Contribute to Society project. The interview will be used to create the Contribute to Society project and submitted to College for America so that my project can be evaluated. This recording will be used solely for this purpose. The interview information will be temporarily stored in the College for America online evaluation system, in which only the evaluator and the College for America staff will have access. Do you have any questions?
No.
Okay. Do you give your consent to be interviewed and recorded?
I, Isabella Davis, give my informed consent to participate in this interview, to be recorded and used as part of the student's academic work.
Thank you, baby. So, Isabella Davis, what are the three branches of government?
The judicial, legislative, and executive branch.
Very good. And what do they do? What does each do?
The judicial branch interprets the Constitution and whether our laws are constitutional or not. The executive branch executes the laws, manages the country, and the legislative branch makes the laws, quite simply.
Here with Kay Mitchell. Today is March the 8th. My name is Angelique Davis. I'm a student of the Bachelor of Arts program with College for America at Southern New Hampshire University, and I am conducting this interview as part of my academic work. With your consent, Kay, I will record this interview and use the information in Government and You. I am working on a Contribute to Society project. The interview will be used to create the Government and You video and submitted to the College of America so that my project can be evaluated. This recording will be used solely for this purpose. The interview information will be temporarily stored in the College for America online evaluation system, to which only the evaluator and College for America staff will have access. Do you have any questions?
No.
Okay, and so then you would read that statement.
And do you give consent to be interviewed and
I'm sorry.
recorded? Yes. I, Kay Mitchell, give my informed consent to participate in this interview, to be recorded and be used as part of the student academics work.
Thank you. I'll name the three branches of government, U.S. government.
The U.S. judicial system, the legislative branch, and the executive.
Awesome.
The executive, the legislative makes laws, the executive can veto, and the judicial system makes legal sense of all the laws to make sure they're constitutional.
So Kay and Bella both did a great job describing the three branches of our government. We have our legislative branch that makes laws, our executive branch which carries out the laws, and our judicial branch which evaluates the laws. These are all connected because their primary concern is to uphold the Constitution. All laws may be subject to the scrutiny of all three branches. A proposal can only become a law after both the President and Congress have agreed to it. However, the Supreme Court has final authority on whether that law will remain, depending on whether it violates the Constitution or citizens' rights. The President appoints the justices. Congress decides whether to confirm the justices. Because the Supreme Court justices are appointed for life, they are able to make impartial decisions as well as overturn decisions made by the President or Congress without fearing impunity. Both the executive and legislative branches are in charge of treaties. While the President creates treaties, they will need to be ratified by Congress. Both the legislative and executive branches are in charge of the budget. While Congress creates a budget, the President must sign it. These branches also regulate each other for checks and balances. Each branch has some control over the actions of the others to ensure that no single branch has complete control or operates above the law. Although Congress creates laws, the president has the power to veto any of them. The courts may decide that a law is unconstitutional. Although the executive branch executes the laws, Congress has oversight of the executive bureaucracy. They can investigate the executive branch's actions. The House of Representatives has the power to impeach the president. The Senate has the power to remove judges and officers in positions appointed by the president. The executive branch needs to rely on the Congress to declare war. Congress can also overturn a president's veto on a proposed law if both houses succeed in a 2/3 vote to overturn that veto. The appeals courts have the power to overturn laws they find executive actions are unconstitutional. Although the judicial branch interprets the laws and constitutionality of those laws, Congress technically has the power to reorganize and even dismantle the court system. The president has the power to appoint who he wishes to the courts, and Congress has some power in choosing which judges they will confirm.
And the Democrats and the Republicans are two major political parties. Can you name a third party?
Yes, the Libertarian Party and the Green.
The Democratic Party and the Republican Party are the two major parties in our political system. Can you name a third or minor party?
Independent.
Our founding fathers were separated into ideological camps, one headed by Alexander Hamilton and the other by both Thomas Jefferson and James Madison. Hamilton and his Federalist Party wanted a constitution that supported a strong central government, which would control the national economy, a centralized bank, and economic policies beneficial to business and trade. Those who were opposed to this were called the Democratic Republicans. Instead of a strong central government, they wanted more power and rights to go to the individual states. They pushed for a Bill of Rights to be passed with the Constitution. They did not want a centralized bank. They were in favor of an economy that would favor the individual farmers. These two parties competed for control of the presidency, Congress, and the states. Our current two-party system evolved out of the two originating parties. If third parties give the voter more options, they can offer unique points of view that differ from that of the Republicans or the Democrats. And this shifts natural attention to particular issues not otherwise focused on by our government or media. The ideology of third parties is in fact often due to concern and for mobilization around a particular issue. An example of this would be the Green Party arising out of the concern for the lack of focus on serious environmental issues. When these third parties bring attention to a particular issue, this often results in the candidates of one or both of the main two parties paying more attention to and mobilizing around that issue in order to more effectively compete for the vote. The problem is that unfortunately, third parties rarely win the actual election. They succeed in splitting the vote, thereby influencing the outcome of the election in favor of the party that lost the least amount of votes to that third party.
Can you tell me the basic process by which a bill becomes a law?
Basically, if it's introduced in the House or the Senate, it goes through whichever one of the houses introduced it. When it's done with the first house, it will go to the second house, either the House or the Senate. Then it will go to the president's desk if it is signed by both the House and the Senate after its revised versions are both accepted. And the president will either sign it into law or he'll veto it, which will put it back into the legislative branch, which they would have to give a 2/3 majority. And if they cannot do so, the bill dies. If they do, it overrides the veto and the bill becomes a law.
Can you briefly describe how the process for a bill becoming a law, how a bill becomes a law?
Oh, I'm not exactly sure. I think it takes votes and
How does a bill become a law? Anyone can draft a bill. The executive branch, the legislative branch, or even the people can give input about a law they want passed or changed. Although anyone can draft legislation, it takes a member of Congress to actually introduce that piece of legislation. The initial person introducing that potential bill is called the sponsor. For instance, to better protect citizens in 2010, Representative Doris Matsui introduced a bill that would amend the Toxic Substances Control Act to reduce the emissions of formaldehyde from composite wood products. She was therefore the sponsor of that bill. A bill is proposed in either the House or the Senate. Because Congresswoman Matsui is a representative with the House, her bill was first introduced in the House. Although any member of Congress can introduce a piece of legislation, those involving appropriations of finances must originate in the House. So once the bill is introduced, it is assigned to a committee by the Speaker of the House or the presiding office in the Senate immediately thereafter. Bills may be referred to a subcommittee, and that subcommittee researches the issue by requesting input from government agencies and has public hearings of expert opinions. Revisions or amendments reflecting what was learned by the subcommittee may be made on the bill. These are called markups. The subcommittee makes a report describing the bill, how it changes existing law, and what it will cost to implement those changes. They will send that report to the subcommittee to the committee, and once the committee gets it from the subcommittee, that committee will either decline it, essentially killing the bill, or it will recommend that that bill is ready for debate on the floor. For floor action, what happens is the bill is scheduled by debate, and then it's debated on the floor. Typically, amendments are recommended, and once the bill is sent back to the committee to consider the amendments and revise the bill, it may be debated again, and it may take a few times for it to actually, it may take a few times for it going back and forth to the committee to the floor before it is deemed appropriate. Once done, the voting takes place. If it's passed by a simple majority, the bill goes to the other chamber for a vote. But first, the Congressional Budget Office will have to ensure that the bill meets budget requirements. The chamber will repeat the process of researching the subject in their committee, debating and amending the bill, and finally voting on it. If one chamber fails to pass the bill, then that bill dies. Both chambers have to pass that bill for it to go through. Sometimes by the time a bill gets through both the House and the Senate, we end up with two very different bills. If the House and the Senate pass different bills, they are sent to a conference committee to determine how the bill should finally read before it goes to the president. Most major legislation goes to a conference committee. Once the conference committee reaches a compromise, it prepares a written report, which is submitted to each chamber, and there it has to be approved by both the House and the Senate. In the case of Representative Matsui's bill, it was ultimately the version of the bill presented in the Senate that was passed by both houses. Once the House and the Senate pass the same bill, it is then sent to the president. The president will either sign the bill into law within 10 days, or he can neglect it, which is essentially a veto if, depending on whether Congress is in session or not. A bill becomes law if it's signed by the president or if it's not signed within the 10 days while Congress is still in session. If Congress adjourns before the 10 days is up and the president neglects to sign the bill, then it does not become a law. This is called a pocket veto. If the president vetoes the bill, it is sent back to Congress with a note of why it was vetoed. Congress can override the veto if 2/3 of both houses vote to overturn the president's veto. Once it has either been signed by the president, ignored while Congress remains in session, or a president's veto has been overridden by Congress, the bill becomes a law and is assigned an official number. In the case of Representative Matsui's bill, it was signed into law approximately 4 months after she proposed it to the House. All right, thank you.